So this week was a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff on reflection that we learned with talking about the iterative model of critical reflection that we did our paper on. But there's a lot of other things that we did, like all the readings talked about, that I think can be very beneficial to our practice as athletic trainers. One of them is the reading of Reflection, Moving from Mandatory Ritual to Meaningful Professional Development. I know, I just read the title. But it defines reflection as about thinking about thinking. And I think that can be really important to understand, like, kind of what we're doing when we reflect. So when we talk about effective reflection, I learned that it can change how we practice and how we do research and how we do stuff in the clinical setting. So if we're, even teaching a class and reflecting on just even the day before or how we taught it last semester, and we realize that you could do something more, something better with that, I think that's really important because it bridges that gap between knowing you can do something and actually putting it into action and doing it. Or, on the other hand, this can bridge the gap in clinical work. So if you deal with a really hard situation, whether it was a shoulder dislocation or a fracture in the leg, and then later on you take that and do an effective reflection on what happened at that meet or at that football game, based on what you did correctly or incorrectly, you can do better for next time. So I know when I was working this past week, I had to deal with a spine board case, and I took a lot of that night to kind of use this and act and effectively reflect on, what I did wrong, what I did correct, and then for the next time I have that case, then I can hopefully do better based on what I've already experienced. So I think, especially when it comes to athletic training, we can't just use our skills that we learned in the classroom because, you go over spine boarding and you go over all this stuff over and over again many times, but until you actually do it, you don't have that practical experience. And it's really important, especially with reading after all of this stuff. I do find that the more we can reflect, the more that we can understand, what we're doing, the more we can have a better response in the future when we have a similar situation come up. Another thing I learned was from the Clinical Education Health Professionals book, the text by Delaney and Malloy, that second chapter that we were supposed to read, and it kind of showed the difference between the propositional knowledge and the non-propositional knowledge. So that means the research and theoretical knowledge versus our personal craft knowledge or personal individual knowledge. And we need both of these to perform as athletic trainers, to perform as good clinicians and teachers, because we need that research and no knowledge. So there's no spatting. We know that's research that's proven that it's really dangerous to spat athletes. We should know how to tape and how to perform such tasks, and that's all clinical and knowledge based. But when it comes to athletic training, when it comes to actually being with the students or with our athletes, we also need some of that personal knowledge, what we've experienced while being a trainer, what we've seen, what we've done to actually improve that care to athletes. And like I said, this can also be important with education. I can teach anatomy day in and day out because it's just strict, insertion, origin, innervation nerve, or whatever, action nerve, but without any of that personal knowledge of how I learned and any of those tricks or tools or mnemonics, then I'm not going to be as an effective a teacher because the kids aren't going to be receptive to what I'm learning. So not only is it important to be able to reflect on our experiences and incorporate our reflection, our content into how we are going to perform the next time such a situation comes up, it's also important to incorporate both research knowledge and theoretical knowledge into our personal craft knowledge, into what we're teaching, what we're doing, how we are training. Because to be a good athletic trainer, to be a good teacher, we need a multiple dimensional knowledge skill set, and that includes our knowledge that we learned, like clinical knowledge from doing things, from actually performing the task, and also the knowledge we learned in school. So that's kind of what I learned. There's a lot this week, but I think they would definitely help me as a trainer to be able to, look back and understand, hey, I need to sit about this and think about and reflect on what, I could have done better to help me in the future, for both as an athletic trainer and a teacher, because I think that's really important to be able to incorporate all of those things within our practice to make us better practitioners and make us better for our students, whether it's preceptor or teacher. So that's what I got. This week was fun. So